What's up, guys? So we are back, and there's still more Oscar movies to look at, and we're still on the hopeful warm help train. So for the unindoctrinated, that is looking at the societal elements portrayed in the film and seeing how the film handles them, handles its messaging, and whether or not that messaging can potentially help people watching it of all kinds. So for this video, we are looking at triple Oscar winner, The Brutalist. And there are plenty of societal messages, parallels, subtext taking place in 90s and 60s America. We have the issues of immigration on the table. We have a towering portrayal by Adrien Brody that rightfully won him Best Actor. Then the question is it hopeful? No, because the amount of stuff that he goes through under the, not just the Van Burens, but also the casual racism from his cousin's wife, or either way, yes, he gets out at the end, and the film is saying that he does have a successful architectural career and finds his way by leaving the US. This is a yellow, by the way. So, because you have that little teeny bit of hope uptick there at the very end, but the problem is that the film never actually tells you how he actually did that once he and his wife leave the US. If there had been some deeper, epilogue there showing how you build your hope away after leaving, then maybe one could say the hopeless elements of working for the Van Burens versus the hopeful elements of finding your career elsewhere could balance out, but since you aren't really shown it, you have to go yellow. Not talking orange, because he does land on his feet at the very, very end, but the film kind of glosses over that piece at the end, and the rest of the elements of the film really would be hard-pressed to call them hopeful. Warm is also yellow. For context, warm is looking at how subtle the messaging is. Is it warm versus hot? And to be honest, I kind of liked the first half of the film when there was a lot of subtlety to the way the racism is handled on the screen, like through the cousin's wife, or even through the cousin himself, that he and László are cousins, but the cousin sees himself as an American, whereas László is not, and therefore the cousin feels justified in kicking him a little bit, or a lot. But none of that is fully explicit. It's all there, but it isn't really beating you over the head with it. And then even the Van Burens, in the first half at least, it kind of felt to me like, it made me think in the television show Mad Men, there's a season where the main character, who isn't an immigrant, but he is a creative genius who's trying to build himself up and create a new life, and comes across Conrad Hilton, who's a mega mogul, and in that show, the portrayal of the way these millionaires or billionaires take you under their wing, it's like they will feel entitled from having discovered you, but then if you don't give them exactly what they want, then they'll beat you around and kick you, and that feels true to life, both then and now. The fact that in the second half, Van Buren is revealed to be an absolute monster, like, is horrific, and it's visceral. Was it necessary for the film and the messaging? Certainly makes it less subtle. And then the worry is that you don't want people to watch the film and then think, well, my millionaire employer isn't that evil, so, like, you know, for a film that does seem pretty focused on showing the subtle elements of anti-immigrant sentiment and casual racism in the US in the 60s, and the fact that it's the 60s, you're able to draw a parallel to now whilst having a layer removed from it, thereby increasing subtlety. All that's pretty nice. But then once you turn him into a monster, the son, that makes sense. He's already a monster, because that feels true. That these sons of these millionaires are even somehow more twisted than their dads, because, like, the original millionaires, like, carry this element of, like, respect in their own twisted way, because they did build themselves up from nothing, whereas the sons, you know, lived with silver spoons in their mouths and will try to get at you in, you know, even more covert, underhanded, and petty ways. So the son turning out to be a monster pretty quickly, yeah, that feels, that isn't like lack of subtlety, that feels accurate. I don't know if Van Buren needed to be revealed to be a monster in order to get the point across. It helps bring László and his wife closer together, which will be another video. But for the case of the messaging, I'm not sure, but it makes it a yellow as opposed to like a green or something. In terms of help, that is a green. I won't necessarily say blue for the, you know, reasons already expressed. Like, it doesn't really give you a true ending for what, like, if you're someone who's moved to the US and now realizes that they don't want you, which is an unfortunate and cruel truth. If you're realizing that, and then you decide to leave, the film is telling you that you can leave on your own accord, and that maybe that's your best route, is to go somewhere where you are going to feel wanted. You should be able to feel wanted in the US, but that's the ugliness that is in the US. So for that sense, the fact the film could help someone watching this who maybe is struggling with that decision to go to a Canada or an England or anywhere, and, you know, nodding their head and thinking, maybe that is the best route. But then the film doesn't really show you what you should do. It's like, is it just because László's a genius, he's going to find his way? Like, really would have loved to have seen, like, at least some element of, like, what happens once he and his wife get to Israel. If that had been shown, I'd be talking blue or higher, but for that element of help and for showing the ugliness in 1960s US that can draw a parallel to now, yes, all that is green, but it's like some of the ways it got less subtle and not having as clear of an ending as it could have, and trying to have its cake and eat it too by being both US-based hopeless, but also epilogue-based hopeful, and not actually showing it, or enough details of it at least. But all in all, is green, and the very fact that the parallels can be drawn from 1960s US to now is an important thing to showcase on screen, and I'm glad it won its Oscars. The cinematography, the music, and Adrian Brody, all well-deserved wins. The movie. Next episode will be László and his wife, and then more to come. So that's all I have to say about that. Hope you all enjoyed watching. Take care. Cheers.